What's up, guys? This is Vanya with RC Alley. Today I have my B6D in front of me and I'm going to share the setup that I'm running on it. The reason I want to do this is the car feels really good. It's really well balanced. It jumps great, lands great. It's good under acceleration. It just feels really good. It's almost as easy to drive as my old stand-up setup, and for a laydown, that's saying quite a bit. So I did not come up with this setup by myself. Rod Rippey came up with it. He put a lot of work in it. And yeah, so I'll just get started, and that way you can dial your B6 in for smack track, or for really this should work pretty well at any clay track with medium to high bite. That tends to be on the smaller side and a little bit tight. So let's get started. The first thing I want to show you is the body. This is a J Concepts F2 body, and really the only reason I didn't get the S2 is because my local hobby shop was out of stock at the time and I really needed a new body. I needed to paint it up for the J Concepts race that was at Smack Track a few weeks ago. And then the other obvious thing is the lower front wing from J Concepts. I'll take the body off and we'll get into more details now. Moving on to the front end of the car, so I'll just do the ride height. That's 22 millimeters. It's all around. And then moving on to this area right here, we have the so no anti-roll bar. I want to mention that too. But moving on to the knuckles and the steering plates. The steering plate is +1. The steering stop spacing is at 0. Caster block spacing is at 1. It's on the B hole right here. And axle height is at +1, and ball stud spacing, so the ball stud right there, is at 1.5. Other than that, the pistons are 3 by 1.5 +1, running 32.5 weight Associated oil, so that's for the front. The shocks are mounted on the shock tower. They're mounted on the B hole, and on the A-arm they are mounted on the C hole, so the most outer hole. And then there is a bulkhead shim. It's a 1mm shim in there. The ball stud spacing for the steering right here is at 1mm. Here's the battery position. It is on the more forward post, and it is pretty far back actually. It's on the second most forward hole, so that pushes it quite a bit back. And as you can tell, there is no waterfall. I do not run a waterfall, so that battery can be pushed back quite a bit more. Here is the rear end of the car. This is where things get a little bit more complicated. So the shock tower and the shock bodies are the long travel, so 31mm shock bodies and shock tower to match. We have 67mm CVA kit, and you have to get the aluminum hubs to match so they actually fit. And then the 6mm hex out drive instead of the 7mm right here. I'm running the same pistons as in the front, 3 by 1.5mm plus a 1mm hole, and the shock oil that I'm using is 27.5 weight Associated oil with green Yokomo springs. Also, it's probably kind of hard to tell, but I did have to drill an extra hole on the A-arms. So basically there are 2 holes on the A-arms. You want to drill one that's symmetrical to the other 2 holes and move it inward, so stand the shocks up a little bit. Looking at the very back of the car, we have 4 millimeters of spacers right there, a 0.5 millimeter spacer right there. The pills are 1/2 degree out on the rear block and 1 degree up on the C block. The C block is the 25 gram one. So I'll just cover the shocks in detail real quick. The pistons all around, as I said earlier, are 3 by 1.5 by 1 millimeter. So in the front, I made a mistake earlier. The fluid is 35 weight instead of 32.5 weight as I thought. So 35 weight Associated oil with a gray Associated spring. 0 limiters. The stroke is 21 millimeters. Eyelet length, is long. Cup offset is the stock one. And on the rear, again, those 3 by 1.5 by 1 pistons, 27.5 Associated oil, green Yokomo springs, 0 limiters. The stroke is 28 millimeters with short eyelets, and cup offset is stock again. Here is the overview of the car again for some of you that are curious about the electronics. I have a Savox 2263 servo. It's a shorty servo, hooked up to a Futaba radio. I recently switched to a Futaba 7PX from Spectrum DX4R Pro. That was quite a big upgrade. That Futaba radio is amazing. And then I got tired of pushing the button to set my ESC, so I switched my Reedy 1000Z ESC to 510R. It's a lot more convenient to change your settings with the program box than looking for lights and listening for beeps. Then I'm just using a Pro Match high voltage shorty pack, and it's all being pushed by a Gen 3 17.5 motor. I am looking to upgrade my motor soon. I'm not sure what I'll go with yet, but as soon as I do, I will let you know. I'll most likely make a video about that. Alright, so yeah, that's the basic setup of my car. Like I said, it feels really good on a tight indoor smaller size track. It's medium to high bite depending on the day. The car is just super dialed. It feels so good. I can't express enough how much I like driving it. And actually, I usually like four-wheel drive better, but since I've had this setup, the two-wheel drive has suited me quite a bit, and I've been loving driving it. Alright guys, if you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability, and if I don't know the answer, I'll most likely ask somebody who does and get back to you. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in for another video by RC Alley. If you've enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already to keep up to date on what we're doing here, and I'll talk to you next time.